Hi everyone, welcome to Sunset Rewind. I'm Mark Todd, and today with me is the first female coach we've had, the head coach of Corona Del Mar High School's women's lacrosse team, or do they call it girls lacrosse team because they're still in high school?
Girls or women, it's fine,
fantastic.
All works.
And with me is Coach Jess Murray. Jess, how are you? Welcome.
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to be the first female women's lacrosse coach on for you.
Well, yeah, CDM has kind of set the precedent for Sunset League, as they have set the precedent in wins and losses also. But GW was my first coach, and funny thing about that is that years back, I think it was 2004 is when I started the Corona Del Mar lacrosse team. Okay,
so I watched your interview with GW. Well, my 12-year-old told me I needed to watch it, and she was like, you need to watch GW's interview. And so when I was watching it, I had no idea, and it was really intriguing. So you started at CDM in 2004, and then you moved over to Newport Harbor. When did you move over?
It wasn't a direct thing. I took a year off, and then Harbor was just struggling.
Well, you kind of have to. You have to take a year off, and then...
Yeah, you can never go straight from one to the other.
No.
It was that would have been a political nightmare.
True.
But what happened was, and the great thing was that, with Coach Mix, I left it in great stewardship, great hands. His sons were coming through the program, so it was a win-win. And so the real estate market was just going crazy at that time, so that's why I'm part of the way. But Coach, tell us about your background, and this is our first time meeting, so I'm really excited to speak with you.
Okay, so my background is I'm originally from Annapolis, Maryland. I'm an East Coaster as well. Where are you from?
Baltimore. Or should I say Balmer, hon?
Baltimore.
Yeah.
And you play in tournaments? So
yeah, I did.
What high school did you go to in Baltimore?
See, that's such a thing where it is a completely judgmental thing. When people in Maryland, they ask you, where did you go to school, right?
Right.
They're categorizing what level of lacrosse you played.
Okay, well, I'm a public school girl, so where did you?
I went to Poly, then to Patterson, and then to Towson.
Okay,
I played lacrosse
all
at Towson.
right. Okay, so I grew up in Annapolis, Maryland. I went to Broadneck High School, and then I played at University of Virginia.
When did you graduate from Broadneck?
I graduated from Broadneck in 1995.
Would you know a guy named Ray Putt?
I don't know that name.
Okay.
When did he graduate?
He went to Broadneck too, and then he went to Penn State, and then
we had a pipeline to Penn State when I was there for the guys team because my brother's older than me, and my brother, two of his teammates also went to Penn State. So I wonder if he's a little bit older than me or a little bit younger.
I think it may be just a little bit older. His dad was a commander at the Naval Academy too.
Okay, we get a lot of those.
Right?
Yeah, very cool.
Broadneck, you get a lot of that. All right, so you started at Broadneck, which is a powerhouse in Maryland. Then you went to Virginia, which is a powerhouse in lacrosse, both men's and women's. Then what brought you to California?
So, interesting journey. You're bringing up the Navy. I graduated from UVA, and I decided I wanted to get into finance. That's what I wanted to do. I became a trader, and after 365 days of no vacation and my brother getting married, I went in and asked, and they said, we're really sorry, but you can't have the day off. The market's not closed, and I promptly said, I think I'm going to retire. And my dad freaked out because my dad was military. My dad was Coast Guard his whole life. And I retired, as I'm going to say, but I didn't retire. It was only 365 days from finance. And I called up all of my teammates that were graduating the year after and said, what are you guys up to this summer? And they said, we're all traveling to Europe. So I met up with 4 of my teammates from UVA, and I traveled Europe for a couple months. When I got back, reality needed to set in. My brother was in the Navy as well. He was a Navy SEAL stationed down in San Diego. And I was like, California's pretty nice. So I came out to California, and I started coaching at the Bishop School and coaching youth down there for fun and some spending money and to pay my brother rent for living with him. And I met my husband, also Navy, and we moved overseas for 3 years. I stepped out of lacrosse. I became a teacher.
Where'd you go?
We went to Naples, Italy. It was fabulous, fantastic, the most magical 3 years of a marriage you can get at the very beginning. And then he got out of the military. He went back to business school, and he went to UNC. Well, rewind. When I was choosing colleges, Julie Myers recruited me at UVA. Jenny Levy recruited me at UNC. I went to UVA. My husband was at UNC. he ran into Jenny, and Jenny was like, wait a minute, your wife is here? Does she want to come coach?
Oh, that's great.
So I was one of the volunteer assistants at UNC for the 2 years that my husband was in business school, and I ran all their camp operations and all that backside stuff. And so I worked there, and then get ready, the story continues, sorry.
No,
but
this
then
is great.
I left UNC. We had to kind of go where the money was, which was my husband. And his job, he went and took a job in finance, and we moved up to Washington, D.C. I worked for St. Stephen, St. Agnes, which is a powerhouse girls lacrosse team. I mean, we had 22 girls a year going D1 when I was working there.
It's exceptional.
It was one of those things, like, I had coached high school at the Bishop School in California. It was a really amazing experience, a huge growth for me as a 22-year-old.
Right.
And then I took some time off, and I was really lucky with the opportunity to work with Jenny Levy.
Yeah.
And when I left UNC, I'm like, I'm good. I just coached at the pinnacle. This was amazing. And St. Stephen, St. Agnes kind of fell into my lap. And I remember thinking, can I really go back? Can I go back from college to high school? And I remember calling Jenny and having that conversation. And she was like, Jess, of any high school program, this is run like a college program. It'll be a really good experience. And it really was an amazing experience.
For those at home local Orange County folk, it's akin to what modern day is known for in football.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It is exactly that. And so, I mean, I think when I left there, we were ranked #1 in the nation for 5 years straight.
Right.
And so, long story short, my husband got an offer for a job in New York City or California. And the two of us met in California. My brother was raising his 3 children down in San Diego. And the two of us looked at each other and we said, why not? Let's take a leap of faith and let's try California. And we loved DC. We loved the community we were in. But we also were both, I was military. Like, moving for me was not a big deal.
Right.
And he was military. So, and I think when you're in the military, you realize, like, your spouse and your family are the most important thing, and you're going to make the best of everything. So he moved to California 6 months before me. I was mid-season coaching at St. Stephen, St. Agnes. I was pregnant with our third. We were selling a house, and I was teaching full time. So it was like a little bit of a journey to get here. And he was enjoying California life for 6 months without me.
I've always been amazed how women are able to coach while pregnant. And lacrosse is probably not the safest sport to coach while pregnant. I mean, my friend Johnny Rodriguez's wife, CJ, she coached at Foothill. You know her.
I know CJ.
And as long as I've known her, she's been pregnant.
I think women just figured it out.
Yeah, and she's as tough as any woman I know.
And it's funny, Jenny Levy and I used to strap our newborns because Kate Levy, who's an exceptional lacrosse player, freshman at UNC this year, and my daughter are 4 months apart, and the two of us would strap them on and go to practice, and the girls would say, I'm really scared. And Jenny would be like, then catch and throw better. And you're like, okay, touche. But so
nothing like catching and throwing when life and death matters.
Exactly. But we have quick reflexes, so if it's coming at us, so my husband moved out to California. We moved out. I left kind of my dream job. I was a high school coach. I was working at the high school. I was working with an amazing mentor at the time. I was teaching PE for 2 hours a day, like a mile from my house. My kids were going to school there. It was great. Moved to California, and my husband was like, so what are you going to do now? I'm like, probably just be a mom for a little while. Well, my daughter at the time was 5 and wearing a lacrosse t-shirt and basically sold me to the neighborhood and was like, my mom coaches lacrosse. She needs a job. And so a mom in the neighborhood, I live in the Port Streets, said, you know what lacrosse is? Yeah, I know what lacrosse is.
Which is kind of apropos for a Navy family in the Port Streets.
Yes, it is. And so I joined the staff in 2012. I was pregnant with my third, and you were laughing. I practiced on Monday, took my mother-in-law for a hike. I was 10 days overdue with my third. I went to practice, and then I went to the hospital, had a baby, and was coaching on Thursday. And I think...
Jess, that is amazing.
But the worst part about it is I coached on Thursday, and then we did team pictures on Friday. Like, that's kind of cruel. Kind of cruel. I didn't look my best 4 days after having a baby. But
oh my gosh.
But I think, like,
wow.
Coaches, people that work with kids and coaches, like, it's 2 hours of your day or 3 hours of your day, and it's pretty awesome hours. So, and it was a break from my own 3 kids.
Well, I got to tell you, a lot of coaches talk the talk, but I think when they see what you did that week, you literally walk the talk. You walk the walk, and you showed up right after having a kid.
But I think
Wow.
that's what kids need to see, like
Yes.
people and adults showing up, like, and it's, like I said, it's 2.5 hours. Yes, 2.5 hours on the field. There's a lot of time behind the scenes, but but they show up for each other, and I was able to. And I remember my husband standing in the stands being like, we need to leave. Like, I can't help this newborn. And I was like, all right, tapped out, and we finished the game and zipped home, and it was awesome. And we won. I remember it.
There are some things that, dads are incapable of doing at the moment when they're that little. Like, hey, I need help.
Yeah.
Right? So I get it. Kudos to him for recognizing that. What of that Maryland experience and what was a bigger impact on you in your coaching philosophy today? I mean, you've played at Broadneck, then you coached and played at the highest level of Virginia, then coached in North Carolina, and then coached again back in Maryland. Of all those experiences, how have they formulated your coaching style and philosophy today?
I think there's something to take away from each one of those experiences. I think Broadneck, I thought I was going to play soccer in college. That was my
Really?
dream. I was playing soccer, and my coach pushed me to go to a tryout, and I was like, really? I'm going with these seniors. I'm probably not going to make it. And it was one of those brutal tryouts back in the day that there's like 300 kids, and then there's 150, and then there's 25. And I remember being like, they keep calling my name.
I remember those, yeah.
I think Broadneck, that coach was like, believe in the underdogs. Like, she was like, believe in those underdogs. Like, you're an underdog here. You think you're a soccer player, but I see a lot of potential. So I take away, like, believe in that underdog philosophy from my high school coach. And she believed in me, and I was the underdog, and I had a lot of great success. And then Julie Myers was my head coach at Virginia, and her and Heather Dow were very integral players and coaches in my life. And they just were firm. They were very firm, and they demanded a lot out of you. And I just remember being like, I need to rise for them. Like, I need to rise. And I think having a coach that you want to rise for is really important. So I take away, like, how can I be that coach that those girls look at me and they want to say, I need to rise for myself, but also, like, how can I rise for my coach too? And I know that might sound a little bit self-centered in some ways, but I look back at my coaches and I really believed in them. And so I think if I can be a coach that the girls believe in, that really matters.
I think that matters in all leadership.
It really does, because buy-in's important. Buy-in's really important. And then Jenny Levy, I really enjoyed working for Jenny. She brings competition to the next level in practice. And she has all these fun things that she does with her team, preseason, postseason. And I looked at that and was like, gosh, she's really fun. And so I took away that from her. And my next coach I worked for was Kathy Jenkins. And Kathy Jenkins was like this, she's still coaching. She just came out to California over spring break, and we chit-chatted and we called. She brought her team out here. And I just think Kathy was like this ultimate believer in the power of lacrosse and how, like, you got to work hard. There's no excuses. Like, work hard. That's your job.
Do you feel USC calling your name?
No, I don't. I mean, I would love to coach college again. I think there's a big difference between college and high school. And I think I remember college coaches saying, like, this is your job. Like, not to me, but to the players. Like,
that's right.
Listen, I recruited you, and you're here because I recruited you, which means I interviewed you. I interviewed your family. I interviewed your coaches. And, like, everyone put themselves out there for you. So this is your job. So do your job.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a child that's on a recruiting path, that right there is exactly the path that they're going to have to take. And Coach, that could not be, I've never heard it better expressed than what that was. And that's exactly the path that happens. They want to make sure that you're invested, that you're all in. Because when you think about it, and a lot of people don't, this is how they pay their mortgage.
Yes.
Right? This is how they feed their family.
Yeah.
So if they're going to put their lives and their family's, ability to survive in some teenager's hands, 17-year-old coming into college, they got to make sure that, they got their head on straight.
And that's hard. It's hard sometimes. And by the way, I'm a parent as well.
Sure.
Like I said, it's hard when you, as a parent, you're like, but they have my kid in their hands. But then again, like, your kid's choosing that university because of the belief system that those coaches are giving you. But like you said, it's a job. It's a job in college. And by the way, every high school player that wants to play in college better hear that. Like, it's a job that you can have the most fun with in the world, but jobs are hard.
It is hard. I remember my freshman year, everybody's going on spring break and we're having 3 days.
Oh, yeah.
It was brutal. There's no spring break for lacrosse.
There's no spring break. No spring break. And sometimes you miss graduation. And sometimes
Yeah, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
If you miss graduation, that means you're
still going.
Yeah, exactly. You've been around a lot of culture makers. What would be what would be the 3 things that if we looked at your team that we could come away from the Corona Del Mar girls lacrosse team as 3 things that stand out to us that's somebody who is coached by Jess Murray?
Oh boy. I think like something that I really put into the girls is the value of respect. And when I say respect before games, I say, listen, we need to respect. There's a couple things you need to respect. You need to respect the officials. You need to respect your teammates. You need to respect your opponents. And you respect each other. Like, that's it. And obviously respect me and the other coaches. But I think, like, respect is really important. And I do believe, and by the way, I'm not on the field being the ref, and I'm not on the other sideline, but I will say that my girls, they respect the game, and they respect the game in the fact, like, I will not tolerate talking back, and they won't. And not to me, to opponents, to coaches. Like, this is a game of respect.
To fans.
Everyone's doing their best.
Yep.
Everyone's doing their best. And some days someone's best is better than you want it to be, and sometimes it's worse. But everyone just needs to respect. So I think the idea of respect behind, like, we get to play this great game. And yeah, you might really strongly dislike that opponent today, but you got to respect him. And if you don't respect him, you're not going to show up and play well. Good or bad. Like, if you think you're better than someone, you're not going to play well. And if you think they're better than you, you're not going to play well. So I think the value of respect is something that I really want, and I really hope everyone sees when they see my team in the future, or they see any of my players. They're like, those are really respectful girls.
What else will we notice? So we got the respect, but when we see them play,
I think they have fun. I hope they have fun.
Well, isn't that a factor that a lot of people miss out on?
I mean, there's moments that they don't.
Yeah.
And by the way, look, I don't have fun when I'm losing. It's reality.
If you're having fun losing,
there's another problem. As my husband says, you didn't come home angry enough. And I'm like, well, but I think finding the positives, even when you lose, I think if I can tell my girls to find those positives, and I think I really try to cheer that on from the sideline. I'm a firm believer, and my coaching staff cheers on the things that don't even go right. Like, you're going to use your left hand down low on the crease, even though 9 times out of 10 you're not going to catch it. I'm happy that you're trying it. And I'm going to tell you, and I had a girl who was struggling shooting a couple weeks ago, and I said, what have I told you? Have I yelled at you that I'm mad at you for shooting and not scoring? And she goes, no, you tell me it's a good opportunity. Take that opportunity. So I think the idea of having fun and cheering each other on is really part of my team too. I think my sidelines this year have been awesome. They've been cheering a ton. I think the positivity around my program is really good.
Fun, positivity, respect, and from one of the parents who I'm friends with, I know several of the parents that I'm friends with. They're all Raving fans. Not Ravens fans, but they should be, but they're Raving fans. She's built an amazing team and culture. The girls are so happy and feel valued, and happy girls play well. She played college lacrosse, and she knows everything about the game. She's a strong leader, but also funny and has strong values. And then she puts that she expects that everybody who comes from her team is committed, collaborative, respectful, and you make the girls a #1 priority.
I love that. That's really sweet.
What else could you ask for from a head coach of a program?
I mean, I feel really lucky that they think that of me. And by the way, they couldn't think that of me if I didn't coach really great kids.
And it's the funny thing about a coach is that they used completely unsolicited the same exact words that you use, that what you're driving home into your program. And so I think that goes a long way. One of the things having coached at CDM in Newport Harbor is, and this always happens when an event goes down, let's say it's distasteful, and it happens at one of these two schools, it tends to be a lightning rod and it gets national media.
Why? But yes, you're right.
It does, because people want to point fingers really quick,
right?
And it's a cultural phenomenon that happens. I think it happens in other Orange County schools too.
It happens all over the nation.
Yeah.
We're crazy to think that it's just here.
Yeah.
But it does make national news pretty regularly here.
Because when I got my friends from Maryland, what's going on out there? Like, no, it's not as bad as you think.
Right.
And
then I just play dumb. What are you talking about?
Right. Let's get ready to your season. So what's your record right now? And tell me about
you can't ask me those
lineup.
questions.
Okay,
so why can't you ask me those questions? This is embarrassing. And this is a fact. And I admitted it to a gentleman in your studio. I am a really bad coach when it comes to what's your record.
Love that.
And I am a really bad coach when someone says, who scored all your goals?
Love that.
And I'm a really bad coach when you say, who's number blah, blah, blah on your team? And I'll look at you and say, let me get my list. And so when you ask my record, I know we had a great record this year. And that sounds so silly to say out loud, but my goal isn't to be perfect at the end of the season. My goal is to peak at the right time. And my goal is that everyone gets an opportunity to prove themselves this year. Mm-hmm. And I've had all those games. We've had all those games this year. And so I'm embarrassed to admit that I don't know my record.
And folks, let me tell you, when you are engulfed in the season and doing all the behind the scenes work that Coach Murray's doing with the film and the scouting and the preparation and the communication with the coaches and game prep and all those things, and then sometimes reports you have to give to the referees and to the ADs and things like that, it is mind-boggling. And for you to say that, it actually shows where your values are. You're on to the next opponent, whether it was a win or loss behind you, it's behind you.
It's behind us, and we have to learn from that.
Well, what's in front of you?
What's in front of us? We play El Dorado on Thursday at 3:30 at home. We have played El Dorado before, and it was a close game. We won by 2. So Thursday will be a really good competition. They have some great players on their team that work really hard, and I think it'll be a great starting point for us in CIF. I think hopefully we can show up and prove everything we've been working on this season, because that's what playoffs are for.
Right. So when you played El Dorado the first time, that CDM girls lacrosse team, how are you going to be different the second time when you play them?
Ooh, can I spill all my beans?
No,
I'm kidding.
You don't have to give strategy, but let's talk about like how your girls have developed, and any particular girls.
Great.
We can name drop if we can.
So I think we will be a different team in that I like to call them game changers. And game changers are my girls that are coming off the sidelines. I have game changers that come off the sidelines. And why do I call them game changers and not substitutes? Because they get to come in and make a change in your game. And I think when we first played El Dorado, I was not necessarily the best user of my game changers. And I think I have some really strong players that come off the sidelines right now. I have a senior, Helena Fratt. Helena Fratt is what we're going to call her. Helena comes off the sideline, and she's a game changer. She's really fast. She's really disciplined. She is really good at reading the vibe of her teammates. And I feel strong with her coming off the sidelines for us. I also have freshman Bijou. Her brother is on the boys team. His name is Augie.
Yeah.
Bijou comes off. She's great hands.
He's a big kid. He can play.
He can play. He's quick. But so Bijou is a freshman that comes off the game changer lineup for us. Good hands, works well around the crease. But then I also have a couple of my like really seasoned girls that are on the field. I have a senior, Meg Vanis, who she's a captain for us. She really leads the team by example. And I think as a coach, you're really lucky to have kids that lead by example. I mean, there's not a minute in practice that she's not pushing, and she does it so respectfully to her teammates. And I don't mean like elbow pushing. I mean, she's going to push you for that ground ball right to the last minute. She's going to ask you to give it your all right until the last whistle of practice, and she does the same thing on the field. She's the youngest of 4. 2 older brothers went to Loyola. Sister went to CDM.
That makes it tough.
I feel really lucky to coach a kid like Meg Vanis. But by the way, I have 9 seniors this year. She's one of my seniors. I have a couple other seniors that are starters on the team. I have Rihanna Quinn, who's an attacker. I have Ashley Solarzik. They do a lot of work around my crease for me and put in a lot of effort there. I have another senior, Miley Lyle, on attack, who works the crease. She works up top. I have a junior, and you're noticing that a lot of my seniors play attack. My attack is very senior heavy. My defense, I have 1 senior on my defense.
So you're going to be strong at defensively next
year.
year.
We'll be strong at defense next year. And by the way, that's where I think our changes have changed, because my senior crew, my attack crew, have been working together for a while. They're really good friends off the field, which is awesome. I feel lucky that I coach a group of friends. I have that going for me on the attacking end. And then on my defensive end, they were all new this year to varsity, and they were mostly new to playing. Not new to playing, but new to playing the varsity Lacrosse, style. But I have on my defensive end, I have a senior named Anita. Anita's awesome. She came in this year, and she is super vocal. She brings a lot of energy to the defensive end. I have Grace McCarthy, who's a returner from us last year. She started as a sophomore for us.
Wow.
I have a girl named Gabby Bales, who's lightning fast on defense, and she put in her work last year on varsity.
Having fast defenders is such an advantage. People don't understand that, because you can't defend what you can't catch. And so when you're playing really fast offensive players, you need to have a defensive person that can match feet.
You can match feet and also clear the ball for us.
Being in real estate locally, I'm friends with a couple of the local families, such as the Parisi family, the Graham family, and the Michalskis.
Oh, okay. You are friends. So Miley Parisi is one of my girls on attack, and that girl's fast. She is very fast. But there's so many girls that I could really highlight, and that's the hardest part, is I'm in my brain being like, who have I forgotten? But I think
there's always someone.
There's always someone. But I think another person that's really impressed us this year is we have a goalie who had never stepped into cage until February of last year. And
that's remarkable. And she's your starting goalie. She started on our JV2 team last year. That's a long journey.
It's a long journey.
From JV2 to varsity.
JV2 to varsity.
Wow.
She twilighted a little bit on the JV1 team when we needed her last year. And then for playoffs last year, I pulled her up just to do it's great to have 2 goalies. And I had a great goalie last year, Faith Chavez, who was also a new goalie. But so Sophia put in the work this summer. She put in the work this summer. She put in the work this fall. And I think for a goalie position, the most important thing is that confidence. And she has really gained a ton of confidence.
Confidence is everything, paramount for a goalie. Because if a goalie loses confidence and gets shaky in the goal, they got to have a short-term memory.
Short-term memory.
Like as Coach Lasko said, be a goldfish.
Yeah, be a goldfish.
Take Coach Lasso. Sorry for that. So tell me about some esteemed alumni that you've coached.
Esteemed alumni. Gosh, so one of them you announced, Sarah Michalski. So I'm really lucky in that if you look at my coaching staff, most of my coaches played for me. And they leave and they come back to the area, and I get wind that they're here, and I immediately am like, hey, do you remember how much you love CDM Lacrosse? Do you want to come coach? And so I would say, highlight Sarah Michalski. Did she go play in college? The answer is no. But did she go do her thing and then come back and really give back to our community and really pour into these girls?
Isn't that important?
It's so important. It's so important. So I have Sarah Michalski, I have Sophia Newton, and I have Erilyn Balcazar, and they are 3 of my coaches that all played for me. And I just feel really lucky to have girls that have gone through this program, because when you've gone through the program, you know, 1, kind of my jam, and 2, you know what needs to be improved. Because I need improvements every day, so they can come in and say, hey, coach, can we start this on the JV level? Or, hey, when I was on varsity, you don't do this anymore, and I loved it. So I feel really lucky. So they're esteemed alumni in my mind.
They remember drills and stuff like that.
Yes, and so I feel really lucky that my alumni want to come back. I also had Emily Turner back coaching. I've had Gabby Garcia, a lot of girls that have gone through this program have returned to Orange County and coached. But In college currently, I have one player currently in college. Her name's Frankie Garcia, and she is crushing it at San Diego State.
Oh, wonderful.
She's been starting, I think this is her sophomore year. She's one of the top scorers on the team. She was one of the top scorers on the team last year. So she is down at San Diego State, and I have a goalie at Emerson. I'm brainstorming.
Emerson's big time competition, you know?
Yes, she's a goalie there. I'm impressed by her. Right. She comes back and works with the same goalie coach that my goalie works with. Like, I just feel really lucky to have those girls in college because they kind of paved the way. But rewind to the fact that I have 68 girls in my program. Do I have 68 girls that want to go play college lacrosse? The answer is no.
Of course not.
And
some just want to be a part of a team.
And that's my job, and that's part of my philosophy. Yeah. And so, but I have girls that probably could go play in college that decided, like, I love this sport because it's fun, and when I try to, that's not going to be fun for me. And by the way, those are the girls that are crushing it on my field right now, that made that decision for themselves their sophomore or junior year. Like, that's not what I want. But I do have girls that want to go play in college, and they're putting in all that extra work, and I love that for them.
Are you reaching out to coaches, or are coaches reaching out to you? How's that going right now?
So do you know what's interesting? And I might get in a lot of trouble for saying this, so just be ready. One, I will reach out to any college coach that you want me to reach out to as a player. Two, recruiting goes a lot through your club programs, which I love because those college coaches, their job, not college coaches, those club coaches, their job is to make those relationships with those college coaches. Yeah. And so you're paying them to do that. I wish college coaches called high school coaches a little bit more. And I mean that genuinely, because I know these girls a lot more than their club coaches. I also coach clubs, so I can say that, right? I'm allowed to say that. But I just wish college coaches. But they would say that too.
They know your high school coach has a much deeper relationship.
But it's interesting because they don't knock on our door, and I wish they did a little bit more. And for Frankie Garcia, I remember it was coming down to 2 girls in the end, and Frankie was really heart set on San Diego State. It's close to home for her, and I kept emailing the coach, and we'd email back and forth, and she picked up the phone and she called me, and I said, you as a college coach get a really unique opportunity, and you might be one of the only coaches that gets to do it. You get to choose your family. Like, you get to choose your family because you're spending just as much time with them as your family.
It's true.
And my 9-year-old daughter would choose Frankie Garcia every day.
Fantastic.
And I just remember really saying, like, I would choose her to be in my family. My 9-year-old's going to choose this girl, which means that she's not just this high school player that thinks she's the hot dog out here. Like, she's a real kid. And I truly believe that if college coaches called some of us high school coaches a little bit more, but I know why they don't. And I think I'm really lucky in that I've been really fortunate in all of my coaching pedigree and my playing pedigree that maybe they call me a little bit more frequently. And Jenny Levy, I think, has the largest tree of college coaches out there that have played for her. I could be making that up, but I really believe it. And a handful of those girls are all head coaches. And so I will call them and say, hey, look at this girl. Even if she doesn't play for me, I would call for any girl in this area. I would call for a Newport Harbor girl.
They trust your insight.
And I use those relationships. I use those relationships. Mandy at Ohio State, I coached her when she was at UNC, and I was her warm-up coach for goalies. And I call her and I send her text just to say, hey, listen, can you help me find a good place for these kids? And so I would call anyone. I would send them an email. I'm going to be knocking on doors and calling emails. You can't do that. Calling phones, sending emails.
Well, these are the things that coaches do that get no praise or understanding. The families who you're doing it for get it, but people don't know that's part of the game that we have to do as coaches in the background that we're always doing. And you're always nurturing relationships constantly. Yeah, and then then you have people coming to your school because they know your pedigree, they know what you bring to the table, and they believe their child brings skills to the table. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Right, it happens.
Right, and some kids win the genetic gene pool, and some kids don't.
Oh my gosh, I was laughing at you saying that to GW the other day. So my husband's a little over 6'4". I'm
Just a little over 6'4".
little over 6'4". I'm a whopping 5'2". And GW always would say, "Oh, but he married you, Jess. Your son's not going to be super tall." And I'm so thankful that my son's super tall.
Oh,
and
is
then
he?
my
Yeah.
husband will say, "Gosh, you ruined the genetic gene pool for me." And I look at him and I'm like, they wouldn't be fast without me.
You know, it's funny because when I got married, I looked at my wife and said, you were fast, right? So you were playing, because, you know, I'm looking at the breeding lottery here.
Right. I didn't look at that, but apparently I won it. So
I was joking about it, of course, but I mean.
no, it's a
anyway.
joke in our house. Just
Yeah.
to be clear, it's a joke.
What are the ages of your kids?
So I have an 18-year-old senior.
Oh, wow.
She just declared that she's going to Utah next year, and I'm
I got a Ute in the family.
really proud of her. She's worked her tail off. And so I have an 18-year-old Tatum. She goes to Pacifica Christian. I have a 16-year-old son, Tucker, that goes to CDM. And I have a 12-year-old daughter that goes to Anderson Elementary.
You are busy.
I am busy.
Oh, wow, really, really busy. And what's your husband's name?
My husband's name is Alex.
Alex Murray. All right.
And by the way, I have to shout out to him. He holds down the fort a lot for us, and he encouraged me when we moved out here. We moved out here. Like I said, I left my dream job.
Yep.
And he traveled 4 to 5 days a week. And I was going a little stir crazy. And he said, "You have to coach.
Yeah.
We'll make this work. Like, we will make it work." And I dragged the kids to practice with me frequently with a lot of snacks and coloring books and praying that they didn't run away and didn't get hit by a ball. But my husband's a really great supporter, and I love it because I don't have a child on the team, and he comes to my games. And we sit there and we break down the games afterwards, and I laugh because my 18-year-old daughter, Tatum, she's a horseback rider and a soccer player, not a lacrosse player.
Wow.
And she will come to my games and say, "All right, we need to talk about this." And she now has become someone that can break down games with me and talk about things. And but I think that stems from, like, my husband and I both have a really huge love for sports. He played college football.
Okay, yeah.
And
Wow.
I just think the two of us believe in the power of sports. And that doesn't
Absolutely.
mean, yes, we were really lucky and played in the highest level,
Yep.
but that doesn't mean that's what we want for our kids. And that
Right.
doesn't mean that's their journey. But it means, and at times my daughter would say I maybe forced her to play all 4 years of a high school sport, but the day it ended, she cried.
You know, my sons did a very similar journey. And then in his senior year, my son Jason, like, look, you know, I want to be an actor, and theater is the same time, and I want to get some chops because I need to have it for a college resume. I'm like, go chase your dream. They're not my dream. You
Right.
know? And then COVID hit, and then everyone's dream got shattered. But, you know, Jess, you make a great call about family and about, you know, the support that a family has to have, you know, and for the timing and for the sacrifice, for the missed dinners, you know, the missed breakfasts, all the things that are missed because you're coaching.
What do you mean? On Friday morning when we went at 6:30 a.m.? And my husband was like, "There's no lunches."
Well, you know, you guys, and at CDM, you're a little bit landlocked. It's a small
Yeah.
play area. So,
Yeah.
you know, you and Coach Mix are both great coaches, and you've done tremendous things. And Coach Jess, I got to tell you, it's an absolute honor and a privilege to speak with you today. I'm thrilled about this. And El Dorado better watch out. Not that you're looking beyond El Dorado, but what's your ranking? What's your seeding?
Oh, another question you can't ask me.
Yeah, I know.
I know that's embarrassing, but I
okay.
admitted that too because CIF doesn't like to put a number before you.
Boy, they changed the seeding too than what it used to be.
They did. And so CIF doesn't rank you 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to back it out. And so when it comes in, I look to see who do I play? Do I have a bye? So I'm ranked towards the top of D2, but I'm not the top 4 of D2. And that's kind of embarrassing that I don't know it. And I said, should I look this up before I get on here real quick? And I was like, I'm good. Because the year my team won, our team won, we were the last play-in game. And we won the whole thing. So in the scheme of things, it doesn't matter where I rank going in. It matters what happens at the end.
It brings us full circle to your value of the underdog.
Value of the underdog.
Right? Fantastic. Well, Coach, appreciate you so much.
Thank you
Coach
for
Murray,
having
for
me.
making the time. I know it's a tough trek across town at this time of day.
It's fine.
Right, but thank you so much, and God bless you, the kids, and Alex, and good luck in the playoffs.
All right. Thank you so much for having
Thanks,
me.
Coach. Pleasure.